Today we will discuss the essence of truth to benefit those who are still clinging to attachments. My goal is to help you understand the truth instantaneously. Upon listening, you should come to understand, bringing your mind to wisdom and insight, avoiding attachment to any fabrication. This is the goal, to achieve non-self and to extinguish the sense of I or mine. This is the true goal of Buddhism, the aim of the Buddha, and my purpose in helping beings awaken as much as possible in this era. Attaining this truth concerns the mind, not the body. The body does not have a real existence, and even the mind does not have a real existence. If one understands this, the mind will be free from attachment, and ignorance will be completely eradicated. Therefore, when you listen to this recording, you must deeply contemplate it in your mind. From waking to sleeping, remain mindful within yourself, observing the workings and fabrications of the mind, its thoughts, emotions, and feelings. Be aware of these processes and see your inner nature. Awakening is straightforward, not difficult. The difficulty lies in our continued adherence to principles, believing in our separate selves, whether male or female, child or adult, young or old. We cling to the belief that we are human beings with a real existence. This leads to stagnation in realizing the truth. We then further believe in concepts like merit and demerit, happiness and suffering, virtue and vice, without realizing that we are simply engaging with mental fabrications. We become engrossed in these thoughts and emotions, unaware of their presence. When feelings of pleasure or happiness arise, we might think we are experiencing joy or seek to do good deeds for more happiness or merit. However, these are just emotions. If you are unaware of these emotions, it means your mind is outwardly focused. But if you are aware of your emotions and thoughts, that is called inner mindfulness and seeing the truth. It leads to wisdom and understanding, and this is seeing things as they truly are. In truth, practicing Dhamma is about training the mind to awaken and let go of both physical and mental attachments. We must release these attachments back to their original nature without clinging to them as if they are ours or that they have a self. Do you know that the body does not have a real self? Emotions, too, are just mental fabrications and do not have a real self. Virtue and vice arise from the values and meanings we attach to thoughts. Both physical and mental phenomena do not have a real self. When we discuss this, it is often difficult for people to accept. All phenomena and mental fabrications are non-self. They do not have a real self. They are not us and do not belong to us. If we still believe in a real self, it indicates a continued sense of ego. Belief in the existence of virtue or vice as real entities reinforces the ego and attachment, leading to continued cycles of birth and death. Understanding the essence of truth is to free oneself from this cycle. We realize that nothing, whether physical or mental, has a real self. Once we see that both physical and mental phenomena lack inherent existence, the problem is resolved. There is no longer a place for virtue or karma. Everything becomes empty and non-existent. The mind is liberated from all fabrications, reaching a state of liberation or freedom beyond conventional assumptions. When practicing Dhamma, ask yourself why you are practicing. What are you seeking or hoping to know? Who is seeking to know? Is there an I involved? The sense of I arises from where? If there is an I, it indicates a self or ego. All formations are impermanent, suffering, and non-self. All mental fabrications are non-self. In Pali, it is called Safe Dhamma Anatta. All phenomena are non-self. Grasp this principle. Nothing has a real self. If someone understands this and grasps this principle, avoiding rebirth becomes straightforward. In the time of the Buddha, he could teach a lesson briefly, and those who understood could gain insight and achieve enlightenment while listening. This is because the Buddha pointed directly to the body and mind, showing that they do not have a real self, that they are non-self, not us or ours or I, me or you. They are natural phenomena functioning as they are. Form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, also referred to as body and mind, are natural phenomena. They are not us, nor are they ours. Understanding this alone is sufficient. We need to listen to teachings that cultivate wisdom to understand the truth. In the practice of Dhamma, it starts with generosity, morality, meditation, and culminates in wisdom. The goal is to develop wisdom, to cultivate insight. If one listens to what I am saying and understands everything as it truly is, the practice is complete. Just understanding through listening is enough. There are only 5 methods to attain enlightenment. 1. Listening to Dhamma. This is the most important method. The teacher must present the essence of Dhamma, focusing on wisdom and the nature of the mind. One must understand that the mind is not us or ours, it is completely empty. Understanding this is sufficient. 2. Teaching Dhamma and observing one's own mind, teaching others and simultaneously reflecting on one's own mind. 3. Training the mind. This involves guiding and educating oneself. 4. Making a solemn vow. Declare with the Buddha as a witness that from this moment on one will diligently listen to Dhamma, remain mindful, observe thoughts, emotions, and awareness as natural phenomena, not as personal. One vows not to cling to any form or emotion, to make this the final birth, and to teach others to awaken to this truth until the end of life. This practice is a form of homage to the Buddha. 5. Finding a peaceful place to calm the mind. Achieving mental calm does not require retreating to a forest. One can do this at home, alone, by listening to teachings and settling the mind. Once the mind is calm, return to the first 4 methods. Understanding the essence of Dhamma is crucial. The mind, inherently ignorant, was originally pure and luminous. As Ajahn Mun, a significant Buddhist teacher, said, ignorance has led to attaching meanings to things like earth, sky, mountains, trees, people, and objects, which leads to the appearance of phenomena. If the mind has wisdom, it will see that everything exists as it is. It does not have inherent value or importance. This is the nature of wisdom. It does not assign value or importance to anything and recognizes that even the mind itself is not anything. This is the essence of wisdom and the understanding of the true nature of the mind. Our mind is empty, a fundamental element, and inherently lacks any inherent existence or language to describe what it is. The mind is likened to water, and mental formations are likened to waves on the water. The water, being pure, mistakenly identifies itself as the wave. It forgets that it is merely water and is pure by nature. Instead, it becomes attached to the wave, creating narratives and fabrications, believing that it is the body, thoughts, emotions, and that these are us or ours. Thoughts become us, and we become the thinkers, the ones with emotions, angry, joyful, speaking, without realizing that these are mere fabrications. The mind clings to thoughts, believing them to be self, and thus assigns value to what is perceived through the senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. This is how we engage with the world. The world is a world of conventions, and the language I use is also conventional in Thai. This language, like all conventions, does not have real existence. It is anatta, non-self, merely an outcome of thought, and the body acts as a vessel to produce sound. We hear because we have a mind. Without the mind, even with ears, we could not hear. Our mind resides in the body, which is the most excellent vessel. Although we may be born into various forms, ghosts, demons, animals, insects, human birth is considered the most auspicious vessel for achieving enlightenment in this lifetime. We are fortunate. However, once we have this vessel, most people focus on seeking happiness rather than escaping the cycle of birth and death. When happiness diminishes, people suffer intensely. When love fades, they suffer. When wealth and fame decline, they suffer. Praise brings joy, while criticism causes suffering and resentment. This is the nature of worldly affairs. Ultimately, we seek happiness and avoid suffering. Happiness and suffering are the same thing. They are both fabrications of emotions arising from thoughts and mental formations. We desire only happiness and reject suffering, wishing to avoid unwholesome actions and sins. We do not realize that virtue, vice, merit, and demerit all arise from our thoughts and how we assign value to sensory experiences. If we understand this, we are truly mindful within. If the mind has wisdom, it will see that everything exists as it is. It does not have inherent value or importance. This is the nature of wisdom. It does not assign value or importance to anything and recognizes that even the mind itself is not anything. This is the essence of wisdom and the understanding of the true nature of the mind. Our mind is empty, a fundamental element, and inherently lacks any inherent existence or language to describe what it is. The mind is likened to water, and mental formations are likened to waves on the water. The water, being pure, mistakenly identifies itself as the wave. It forgets that it is merely water and is pure by nature. Instead, it becomes attached to the wave, creating narratives and fabrications, believing that it is the body, thoughts, emotions, and that these are us or ours. Thoughts become us, and we become the thinkers, the ones with emotions, angry, joyful, speaking, without realizing that these are mere fabrications. The mind clings to thoughts, believing them to be self, and thus assigns value to what is perceived through the senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. This is how we engage with the world. The world is a world of conventions, and the language I use is also conventional in Thai. This language, like all conventions, does not have real existence. It is anatta, non-self, merely an outcome of thought, and the body acts as a vessel to produce sound. We hear because we have a mind. Without the mind, even with ears, we could not hear. Our mind resides in the body, which is the most excellent vessel. Although we may be born into various forms, ghosts, demons, animals, insects, human birth is considered the most auspicious vessel for achieving enlightenment in this lifetime. We are fortunate. However, once we have this vessel, most people focus on seeking happiness rather than escaping the cycle of birth and death. When happiness diminishes, people suffer intensely. When love fades, they suffer. When wealth and fame decline, they suffer. Praise brings joy, while criticism causes suffering and resentment. This is the nature of worldly affairs. Ultimately, we seek happiness and avoid suffering. Happiness and suffering are the same thing. They are both fabrications of emotions arising from thoughts and mental formations. We desire only happiness and reject suffering, wishing to avoid unwholesome actions and sins. We do not realize that virtue, vice, merit, and demerit all arise from our thoughts and how we assign value to sensory experiences. If we understand this, we are truly mindful within. Wisdom arises here. The practice of Dhamma is aimed at generating wisdom. To cultivate wisdom, one must listen extensively to teachings about mindfulness and awakening. Self-instruction and contemplation are necessary because the mind is inherently ignorant. Therefore, it needs frequent guidance to overcome its ignorance. Consider the mind like water. The water mistakenly believes it is a wave, and thus identifies with the wave's qualities. The method is to instruct the mind similarly to how we would teach water to recognize its true nature. We must teach the mind that it is pure and not the wave. It is only water, not a wave. Persistent instruction helps the mind accept its true nature and stop clinging to the illusion of being a wave. The mind is composed of ignorance. It does not understand the truth because no one has taught it. Therefore, the Buddha achieved enlightenment first to guide us. Since the Buddha is no longer physically present, we must seek teachings from monks or those who know the Dhamma. However, many still focus on earning merit rather than achieving enlightenment. Merit is associated with happiness, leading people to seek happiness. The goal of Buddhism is to attain enlightenment and gain insight into the Dhamma. Some study the Dhamma for years, 10, 30, or 50 years, without grasping its essence. The Dhamma is already present in the mind, which is inherently pure, but ignorance clouds this truth. Therefore, we must teach the mind to see the truth, that the mind itself is not the mental formations or fabrications. The mind is naturally pure, while mental formations are mere characteristics or actions of the mind influenced by ignorance. Understanding the teachings deeply allows the mind to shed ignorance and attachment, returning to its original pure state. The mind's true nature is nirvana, an eternal, unconditioned state. The mind itself is immortal, but ignorance causes it to flow into other forms. After the human life ends, it may take on other forms such as animals, ghosts, demons, or celestial beings. This cycle continues because the mind attaches to emotions and transient pleasures. Once pleasure fades, it shifts to new forms of existence. The teachings emphasize how the mind, influenced by ignorance and delusion, attaches to various forms based on its last thoughts and feelings. If the mind dwells on suffering or anger, it is reborn into realms associated with those states, such as the realm of animals or demons. The depth of attachment to these states affects the duration in these realms. Long-lasting attachments result in prolonged stays in realms of happiness or suffering, while brief attachments lead to quicker rebirths. The Buddha did not teach to perpetuate rebirth, but rather to overcome the ignorance that drives the mind towards these attachments. To address this, one must focus on teachings about awakening and mindfulness. Frequent listening to such teachings helps the mind develop understanding and distinguish between itself and its experiences. True self is the mind itself, not the transient mental formations or physical sensations. The process involves continuous learning and self-reflection. By listening to teachings repeatedly, whether while doing daily tasks or during specific practice times, the mind gradually develops insight. This insight reveals that emotions and thoughts are merely functions of the mind and not the essence of self. Recognizing this leads to a state of clarity and non-attachment. Ultimately, through consistent practice and understanding, the mind realizes that suffering arises from attachment to thoughts and emotions. By observing thoughts and emotions without attachment, the mind learns that they are natural phenomena, not intrinsic aspects of self. This understanding leads to liberation from the cycle of rebirth and the realization of the true nature of existence. Sometimes we experience anger, joy, or sadness, but it is the mind that assigns these labels, anger, joy, sadness, to our experiences. Gradually, we learn to discern and observe our emotions more frequently, recognizing that they are natural phenomena. As we become more accustomed to observing our emotions regularly, we no longer cling to them. The emotions continue to function as they naturally do, but the mind no longer foolishly attaches to them. It no longer matters what name we give to these emotions. They are just as they are. The mind remains aware at all times, from waking to sleeping, frequently observing thoughts and emotions. Wisdom will gradually increase through repeated listening. By listening attentively, the mind will accept the knowledge and gradually come to realize that the body must eventually die as part of its inherent nature. The body is not us, it is not ours. It does not possess an inherent self. It exists because of our thoughts, which is crucial to understand. Thoughts, emotions, and even the sense of awareness are all part of nature. These phenomena function continuously. Sometimes emotions like joy or displeasure arise in response to sounds or sights. For instance, hearing a loud noise might startle us, immediately triggering an emotional response. This shows how sensory input, like hearing or seeing, can cause thoughts and emotions to arise. All sensory experiences, through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, are natural and perform their respective functions. When the mind examines thoughts, emotions, and awareness, it sees that all these are natural occurrences. They do not possess a real, inherent self. They are simply functions of the mind. As the mind continues to understand this, wisdom develops, leading to a clearer realization. The mind will perceive the nature of awareness and thought as separate phenomena that are not related to any kind of fabrication. This realization represents a state of liberation from doubt. Understanding this truth can occur at any moment, while eating, bathing, driving, or even when feeling stressed. The key is to listen and understand continually. By doing so, the mind remains aware and sees thoughts, emotions, and awareness as they are. Thoughts have their own processes, constantly generating ideas and images. Emotions arise as feelings of pleasure or displeasure and function naturally. It will observe these phenomena, perceiving the nature of awareness that is continuously functioning. For example, right now, as you hear my voice, awareness is performing its function of perceiving this sound. This is the natural operation of awareness. Sometimes it remembers, sometimes it forgets, sometimes it is distracted, sometimes it is deluded, and sometimes it remembers more or less. This is also the natural functioning of awareness. When one understands and accepts that there is no self present in these experiences, it becomes clear that only the natural process is taking place. We have no control over these natural processes. Our role is simply to perceive according to reality. We await the day when these processes will dissolve and no further rebirth will occur. When true understanding arises, it becomes evident that there is no ignorance or suffering related to any matter. There is only awareness as it is. This is the state of a mind that has achieved enlightenment, which can be profound or subtle depending on the individual. You will come to realize this yourself. The teachings I am sharing are meant to guide your understanding of your own mind, similar to how teachings were given during the Buddha's time. Those who grasp these principles will find clarity and understanding. The goal of these teachings is to help everyone understand the process of the mind, which is influenced by ignorance. We need to frequently teach and remind the mind until it becomes familiar with the understanding that the mind itself is not owned by anyone. It is simply a pristine natural phenomenon. When the mind realizes this truth, it is said to see the truth or see things as they are. When the mind sees the truth daily and is taught daily, it becomes accustomed to the idea that it is merely a part of nature that performs the function of awareness. The mind's involvement in creating experiences is just an interaction with the observed phenomena. All sensory experiences, what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, are just aspects being perceived. Thoughts and emotions are also merely aspects of what is being perceived. Everything mentioned is just something that appears to the mind. All of it is external phenomena. When the mind understands every day, it concludes that everything is unified as one. All phenomena are simply things that the mind is aware of, and this awareness has no owner. There is no self, only the functioning of nature. When the mind realizes this thoroughly, the nature known as nirvana, or the true original nature of the mind, will manifest completely. You will feel it in your heart, knowing that this mind has attained liberation. It no longer arises and is completely liberated. It no longer clings to anything because nothing truly exists as a self. Everything exists as it is, and it arises only due to the mind's delusion of attachment. When the mind has perfect wisdom, it breaks free from ignorance completely, and this is called wisdom. When wisdom is complete, ignorance disappears because ignorance is eradicated by wisdom. We need to cultivate wisdom and teach ourselves frequently. For beginners, this involves making a resolution. Imagine the Buddha sitting in front of you and declare, "May the Buddha be my witness from this moment on. I will diligently listen to the Dharma, stay aware of my mind, and not cling to anything, including thoughts, feelings, or emotions. I will not wish to be reborn. This will be my final birth. I will not cling to anything, not even to this mind or the process of thinking." When we make such a resolution, our resolve will strengthen. This is called a resolution based on virtue and the perfection of determination. With such determination, every day our resolve will grow stronger, which is known as the perfection of parami, virtue. As our resolve grows, we must listen and teach ourselves every day, understanding that phenomena are not ours, that thoughts, emotions, and perceptions are simply natural occurrences and not personal possessions. While speaking, we must also be aware that speaking is itself a thought. Be mindful that while teaching and speaking to ourselves, we should not think there is a real speaker or self in the act of speaking. There is no real self in thoughts or speech. We cannot find a true self within thoughts or speech. Right now we are hearing sounds, but only the mind is aware of something temporarily, which then fades away. Awareness is momentary and vanishes as soon as the conditions cease. There is nothing that truly exists as a self. Everything is ultimately empty. What remains is merely conventional language. When I think and speak for everyone to hear, it is merely something appearing to the mind at this moment. When you try to verify it, you cannot find it, because it appears in the present and then vanishes. My voice is made up of words that arise and cease, arising and ceasing without any identifiable self. This is the nature of the mind, realizing that nothing truly exists as a self. By frequently observing our own thoughts and emotions, we see that they are merely phenomena performing their functions. The sense of self and thought arise and cease together. There is no owner of these phenomena. They merely exist as transient occurrences. They are merely appearances, and in reality, they are nothing. The true nature of the mind, free from attachment and ignorance, sees this clearly. It becomes apparent that there is no self or entity at all. While speaking, it does not matter if there is someone speaking. There is no speaker or listener. The act of speaking is just an appearance, and it cannot be pinpointed or defined. It is what it is. Your original mind is like nirvana or the state of arahantship. It is akin to the emptiness of space, which holds no merit or demerit, no people, animals, or entities. It is pure emptiness. Your original mind is still obscured by ignorance and attachment, but once these are discarded, the truth will be revealed. When you wake from the dream, the end is the end. When the mind is asleep, it dreams of having a body, of having merit and demerit, of good and evil, and of heaven and hell. When there is a sense of self and a body, there are also concepts of merit, demerit, good, evil, and everything else. But once it wakes up from the dream, it realizes that this is nirvana, that the mind has awakened from ignorance. It understands that in truth there is no self or entity involved in the natural processes. The mind, having been deluded into being born into a human body, a precious vessel, knows that this vessel is temporary and will die according to natural law. If we die while still in this human body, it is not easy to be reborn as a human again. The chance to be reborn as a human is extremely rare, like trying to find a needle in the ocean. Thus, Once we have become human, we should not be complacent but should strive to attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. This is our sole duty. Even while we are busy, nirvana is right there. If we see that our busyness is just an illusion, we can achieve enlightenment even in the midst of our busyness. When we say there is no time, are we not still breathing? Who is it that thinks there is no time? See the thought, see the feeling. Ignorance is present in those beliefs, thinking we are truly human, that we have no time, that we are genuinely busy. Can we distinguish between thought, emotion, and awareness? Can we see that all these phenomena are merely aspects of the mind while we remain aware within? Understanding and seeing this truth means realizing that nothing is truly as it seems. The mind returns to its original nature, which is nirvana. No one attains enlightenment or goes to nirvana, only the natural state remains. We cannot interfere with nature, nor can we alter the natural processes of perception or the body. The body will feel pain, age, and eventually stop breathing, and all these are simply its natural functions. Thoughts arise, perform their functions, and then fade away. When we work, meet friends, or interact with others, thoughts and feelings arise and perform their roles. This is how the mind functions naturally. It is similar to dropping an atomic bomb into emptiness. No matter how powerful the explosion is, it cannot affect the emptiness. Similarly, when we work or engage in activities such as selling goods, we encounter customers who may speak nicely or rudely, harshly or gently. We might feel pleased or displeased, angry or joyful, indifferent or emotional, depending on how we are affected. All of these are just processes and embellishments of nature. There is no owner or self involved. Everything is just the nature of things. Do you understand? The mind is an eternal element. It does not know about merit, demerit, good, bad, joy, or sorrow. It does not know that it is residing in a body. It is not aware of the processes of thinking, feeling, or experiencing emotions. It is indifferent to whether something exists or not. It is just a natural phenomenon, unaffected by any embellishment. When there is an interaction with the senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, or the mind performs the function of awareness of that interaction. It knows sounds, tastes, smells, touches, emotions, and thoughts. Once it becomes aware, it starts to process and create thoughts and emotions based on that awareness, assigning value to various things, leading to feelings of pleasure or displeasure. This is just the natural process. Do not think that emotions should be absent. Instead, accept the truth and understand things as they are. When the mind accepts the truth, that it is just performing its natural functions, thoughts will naturally arise and perform their roles. Thoughts arise from memory, thinking about various things such as family, profits, losses, debts, food, or travel. The mind will think and imagine images of people, objects, and scenes, creating emotions of desire, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, happiness, suffering, laughter, anger, or frustration. It is a natural process that arises according to conditions. No one owns these natural phenomena. However, the ignorant mind mistakenly clings to the belief that these experiences are ours, that we are the ones who are angry, happy, thinking, or feeling. This is the essence of ignorance. The solution is to repeatedly teach oneself. If you cannot do it alone, listen to my recordings. Play the tapes regularly until you understand and your mind becomes familiar with this knowledge. Gradually, the mind will recognize its ignorance in clinging to the self or ego. Keep teaching and reminding yourself until attachment and delusion are released. As wisdom increases, the mind will become lighter and shed the burden of I, me, myself in thoughts, emotions, and experiences. This practice is not about physical actions like sitting in meditation or performing specific movements. It is solely a matter of the mind. The Dharma is already present within the mind. Just listen and understand. As you listen and teach yourself every day, the mind will gradually comprehend and accept the truth. The body is destined to die. It is not ours. It is a natural process. The mind, which thinks, feels, and experiences emotions, is just functioning as it should. It is not us. It is simply nature. There is no I hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, or touching. There are only the phenomena of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. The experience of thinking, perceiving, and feeling is just part of this natural process. There is nothing with inherent self. Everything is just something that appears in the present and then disappears. It is similar to taking care of a child while doing another task. The child moves around, and we occasionally glance at them while continuing with our work. This is how awareness works, simply knowing without attachment to the idea of a self. When something prominent occurs, like a loud sound, we hear it and know it. But it does not matter whether we believe there is a self who hears it. The mind's thoughts and functions are just that, functions of the mind, not something we possess or control. All phenomena of the 5 aggregates, khandhas, perform their functions naturally. Understanding is also a form of fabrication, as is misunderstanding. Thoughts are fabrications, doubts are fabrications, and answers are fabrications. What I am saying is also a fabrication. It is just a natural process that involves thinking and speaking, a natural phenomenon meant to help us understand and transcend the world of conventions. We must not foolishly cling to anything or to the idea that things are us or ours. The mind is merely a state of awareness, a natural process of knowing without language. What you are experiencing right now is the mind functioning. Thoughts, emotions, and perceptions perform their functions and immediately create fabrications. They think about old things, and emotions are the same as before. Since childhood, we have had these emotions, and even upon attaining enlightenment, they remain the same. All beings are deluded by the old, not by the new. Once we are born as humans, we should not be negligent. The Buddha always advised us to be awake and observe the mind to understand the Dharma. It is what it is, that is anatta, non-self. Stop attaching importance to what it is. All things will end as if there were nothing. There is nothing on this world. No one is born and no one dies. There is nothing and nothing exists. The original mind of everyone is a mind that is unborn and undying, transcending time. It is not related to time. Time is a concept used for communication and interaction. However, in the state of liberation, which is beyond birth and death, there is no time, no actions, and nothing to do. Therefore, those who have reached the ultimate state do not perform actions to achieve anything. Those who are still striving and struggling to do something to gain something will continue to cycle through birth and death, experiencing happiness and suffering. By liberating oneself from thoughts, we will encounter the nature that we already possess, nature beyond thoughts, beyond all conventions. This nature does not require reason or language. It transcends happiness and suffering, merit and demerit, and all reasoning. It is liberation, not convention. But those who are still attached to conventions, merit, demerit, good, evil, right and wrong, and who continue to engage with such thoughts will continue to cycle through birth and death. In Buddhism, from the stage of a sotapanna, stream enterer, onwards, an individual has grasped the fundamental principles of the mind. They begin to see and understand that thoughts themselves are the source of happiness, suffering, wholesome and unwholesome actions, positive and negative values, and all the conceptualizations we create. These thoughts are what fabricate these conventions. The essence of an Arya, noble person, lies in this realization. They see that thoughts are the root of all these creations. This realization brings about a state of clarity and certainty, where the mind becomes stable and awakened from within. We continuously engage in conceptual thinking to the point where we forget we are thinking and start believing that our thoughts are real. However, thoughts are merely natural phenomena, with no true owner or substance. In reality, they are nothing at all. They simply are as they are. When one understands this, they are on the path to ending the cycle of rebirth. Regularly reflecting on this truth and setting a strong intention to realize it will lead to spiritual awakening. To attain this realization, one must have both a body and mind and be in human form, which is the most suitable vessel for enlightenment. If one has encountered Buddhism and heard the true Dhamma, which is about wisdom, the mind, and the cessation of rebirth, they should strive to attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. Missing this opportunity in human life might mean not returning as a human again. Remember, every one of you can attain enlightenment. It only requires seeing reality as it is, recognizing that thoughts are constantly arising and distinguishing that these thoughts are what create everything, including happiness, suffering, wholesome and unwholesome states. The mind, ignorant of this truth, clings to these states and is carried away by thoughts without realizing it. This ignorance perpetuates the cycle of birth and death. However, understanding that everything in the world is a product of thought is the key to liberation. The Dhamma already resides within the mind. It is ever present, awakened within. Simply observe your own mind, see how it thinks and feels. It's as simple as that. Therefore, anyone who begins to grasp this principle, who can see and distinguish that thoughts themselves create everything, who can differentiate between the thinker and the knower, is on the path to liberation. When you see that thoughts are just phenomena, natural mental fabrications that are neither you nor yours, you will no longer foolishly cling to emotions of happiness or suffering. Once you begin to loosen this attachment, the mind becomes free and liberated. The mind will cast off ignorance, shatter attachment, and stand apart as a distinct, natural state, no longer tied to mental fabrications. Time is uncertain. We may die today or tomorrow. Each day that passes brings us closer to the end of our lives. Therefore, we must hasten to complete our task. Anyone who listens to my teachings and makes a firm resolution not to be reborn will surely attain the Dhamma 100%. This is the core of the 4 foundations of mindfulness, Satipatthana. The benefit of correctly practicing Satipatthana is that one can attain the fruit of arahantship in this very life. It doesn't matter if you are young, old, a child, an adult, disabled, male or female. Anyone can realize the Dhamma. The attainment of the Dhamma occurs in the mind. If anyone, upon attaining the Dhamma, desires to ordain for life and aspires to help liberate others, they are welcome to do so. But don't get caught up in traditions, cultural practices, or the pursuit of wealth. The main point is that I hope everyone realizes the Dhamma, understands reality as it is, and doesn't concern themselves too much with whether they ordain or not. That's a secondary matter. The central point is the attainment of the Dhamma, which occurs in the mind. When the mind grasps the principles of the Dhamma and fully understands it, doubts gradually diminish, leading to increasing clarity, lightness, and eventually the ultimate liberation from birth and death. The mind realizes within itself that it will no longer be reborn, and there is no need to ask anyone else for confirmation. This realization can be compared to having an illness and trying various recommended treatments without success. Eventually, you find relief from a simple remedy, perhaps given by a traditional healer. The important thing is that you are cured. The specific method becomes secondary. Similarly, in Dhamma practice, the goal is to escape the cycle of rebirth. What truly matters is understanding and seeing the mind clearly, recognizing how thoughts create everything. As you continue to observe, you come to see that thoughts themselves are not real entities, but merely transient phenomena. When the mind breaks free from these mental fabrications, it no longer clings to any of them, and ignorance is cut off from the heart. The mind then becomes something beyond attachment, free from all mental formations, no longer deluded. When the mind realizes it is free from birth and death, the journey is complete. There is no need to seek confirmation from anyone, not even the Buddha. The mind that has fully understood and realized the Dhamma transcends thoughts. In that state, thoughts have no real substance. The heart has no self. It is merely a phenomenon beyond any identity. When this realization occurs, it is called the attainment of the Dhamma, freedom from birth and death. This realization fills the heart with unity with all of nature, with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha residing in that very mind. One can then bow to the Buddha with complete reverence, understanding the profound compassion and significance of his teachings. To see the Dhamma is to see the Buddha. If the mind no longer doubts and realizes this, it has reached the ultimate end of suffering. This understanding is the essence of the Four Noble Truths. The mental formations, citta sankhara, are the causes of suffering, and the cessation of suffering, nirodha, occurs when the mind eradicates ignorance, cutting it off from the heart. The mind, now full of wisdom, is no longer deluded and has transcended suffering. This realization is the core of the Noble Eightfold Path, where awakening to the truth of the mind, clearly seeing that mental formations create the cycle of existence, leads to liberation. The practice of mindfulness, satipatthana, is the essence of Buddhist practice, guiding one towards this ultimate realization. Awakening to the truth, the realization that fills the heart completely, is a profound inner knowing. It reveals the true nature of all things, and this realization arises naturally when we listen to the Dhamma. Listening to Dhamma is crucial because it cultivates understanding and wisdom. As the mind accepts this knowledge, it begins to release its attachments, delusions, and ignorance. This process is simple. Just listen daily and let the mind awaken on its own. Don't force the awakening. It will happen naturally as you continue to hear the teachings and observe your thoughts. This natural awakening is the essence of satipatthana, the foundation of mindfulness. It doesn't require forced concentration or intense focus. Instead, it develops on its own through regular exposure to the Dhamma. Listening to the Dhamma is the easiest path to enlightenment because it helps us understand how our mind works, how it fabricates and constructs experiences. Once we grasp this, we'll realize that in reality, nothing truly exists as it seems. Everything, including our body and mind, is just part of the natural order. Nothing is ours. Nothing belongs to us. Everything is just as it is, naturally. By not clinging to anything as self or mine, we allow everything to return to its original, natural state. When this realization deepens, our mind becomes one with the minds of all enlightened beings, including the Buddha. It returns to its original nature, to primordial emptiness, not an emptiness of nothingness, but an emptiness free from mental fabrications. This state of emptiness fills our hearts completely, and we realize that this natural state is already within us. The key is to understand our mind and allow it to awaken from the dream of delusion, to see reality as it truly is. When the mind accepts this truth, it no longer clings to any natural phenomenon as its own. The knower is simply a natural function, as are thoughts and emotions. The body, too, is a natural vessel. By frequently reminding yourself of this truth, there is no self, no mine, no being or person, you'll come to understand and accept it fully. May we all open the eye of Dhamma, attain the vision of truth, and achieve enlightenment. We've reached the end of today's On Talk. Thank you all for listening. May you all be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. If you enjoyed this clip, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon for notifications so you don't miss new content in the future. Thank you.